Hello everyone, in this episode I'm going to talk about lazy loading in Blazor WebAssembly application. For this demo, I'm going to use Radson Blazor UI component library as a reference. This is an open source project. You can find their package reference on NuGet and add the package reference in your project, or you can download their source code and add the project reference in your project, or you can find the DLL and add that DLL as a reference in your Blazor WebAssembly application. Once you do that, then that DLL will get loaded in your browser whenever you run your application. Now this DLL gets loaded even if you're not using the components from this package reference on your Razor component. This DLL will get loaded whenever your application gets loaded. You can see here on profile and contacts page, I'm not using their components, but the DLL is still loaded in my application cache storage. But if we use lazy loading, then we can load that DLL when we navigate to settings page where I'm using their components instead of loading that DLL when application gets loaded. That way you can skip loading your large DLLs when application gets loaded, and you can load those DLLs later on in your application. So let's first use this Radson project reference in our project and then lazy load this DLL instead of loading this DLL when we load our application. Let's first get started with using Radson checkboxes instead of using HTML checkboxes. For that, we're going to need to add their package reference. I'm going to go to their GitHub repo and follow their README file to add the package reference. To get started, we're going to need to install their package. I'm going to copy this line, and then we're going to need to go to our client project, not the server project. I'm going to go to my client project, and then we're going to need to install Radson Blazor package that will add a package reference in my project file here. The next step is to add a using statement in our imports.razor file. I'm going to go to my imports.razor file and add this using statement so that we could use their components across our application. The next step is to include the CSS file in index.html. I'm going to copy that and then go to my root folder, find index.html, and add their CSS reference in index.html. We also have a JavaScript reference to add, so I'm going to copy this line and add that in my index.html too. And now we can use their components. For that, I'm going to go to my settings page, and instead of using HTML checkboxes, we are going to use Radson switch so that our checkboxes look nicer. Now I'm going to go to my server project and run my application with .NET Watch. I'm going to say .NET Watch run so that whenever I make changes in my files, .NET will keep track of those changed files and recompile and rerun my application. I'm going to go to my application here again, and I'm going to refresh my page and go to settings page. And now you can see that we are using Radson's checkboxes. I'm going to open my developer tools here and look for Radson DLL. You can see this DLL being loaded in application cache storage. If I go to profiles page and refresh my application, that means I'm reloading my application. Then also this DLL is loaded in our application. And we don't want that. We want to lazy load this DLL whenever I navigate to settings page. For that, I'm going to go to my project file and we'll have to tell our project to lazy load the DLL which is associated with this package reference. For that, I'm going to say item group and close this item group tag. And here I'm going to need to tell my project to Blazor lazy load a DLL with name Radson Blazor DLL. I'm going to copy this package name and add DLL extension to it. Now we are going to need to tell our application whenever we navigate to settings page, that's when we would like to lazy load our application. You can see that application got reloaded whenever I made the change and saved the file. Now we need to handle this navigation. Whenever I navigate to settings page, that's when I would like to load my RADs and DLL. And now you can see that RADs and DLL is not getting loaded whenever I'm reloading my application. Now let's go to our application.razor file here. And this is where we'll make some changes to lazy load our DLL when we navigate to settings page. The first thing that I need to do is to inject lazy assembly loader service. I'm gonna need to inject Microsoft ASP.NET Core Components WebAssembly Services lazy assembly loader. I'm gonna name it as assembly loader. And then we're going to add some code, which is going to keep track of our assemblies, which are going to be lazy loaded assemblies. So I'm gonna grab a property here and add a property, which is going to be list of system reflection assemblies, which is lazy loaded assemblies. And we can map these assemblies to our additional assemblies on the router component. I'm going to say that these are going to be additional assemblies that we would like to load, and their list name is lazy loaded assemblies. I'm gonna map those DLLs here. Now you can also handle on navigate async method here. So whenever you navigate to any route, this event gets fired, and I would like to handle this event. I would like to call a local method name as on navigation whenever we navigate to particular route. And I'm going to add that method in my code section here. The method is going to be private async. It's going to be on navigation, and this will get fired whenever you navigate to particular route. It's also taking a parameter which is navigation context, and this holds the path that you're navigating to. So I'm going to add an if statement here, which is going to check if you're navigating to settings page. We would like to use the service that we injected and call its method load assemblies async. And I'm going to pass an array, which is a string array, where I'm going to pass the DLL name that I would like to lazy load. And that will return a list of reflection assemblies, which we created a property for. And then I'm going to add those assemblies in lazy loaded assemblies, which is mapped as additional assemblies here. And that should lazy load your assembly, RADs and Blazor DLL assembly, whenever you navigate to settings page. Now let's go back, and you can see that application got reloaded whenever I saved the file. I did not have to stop the service and rerun it again. And now on profiles page, whenever I reload my application, you can see that DLL is not loaded in my cache storage in my application. If I go to contacts page, it's not loaded. If I go to my settings page, then that DLL gets loaded in my application, and I can see the components on my settings page here. That way you can skip loading your large DLLs until you need them. You don't want to slow down your application when application gets loaded. You can lazy load these DLLs when you navigate to particular component where you need these DLLs. If you have any questions, you can ask them in the comment section below, or you can reach out to me on Twitter or Facebook. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next time. Bye.